Have you ever had the feeling that something grand is about to happen? As if the pieces of the world were rearranging behind an invisible curtain? This restlessness, this almost spiritual discomfort, can have an older explanation of what you think. Enoch's book, one of the most mysterious and controversial texts of antiquity, contains 6 shocking prophecies that surprisingly seem to be fulfilling themselves in our day. For centuries, this manuscript was ignored, censored, and even considered dangerous. But as historical and spiritual events align with their words, it is becoming increasingly difficult to discard it as simple fiction. He talks about the Great Flood, the rise and fall of ancient kingdoms, the coming of the Messiah, the final judgment, the hidden knowledge, and the resurrection of the righteous. All this intertwined in a narrative that combines spiritual revelation with a powerful call to justice and morality. If you are looking for answers beyond the obvious, you feel that there are truths hidden between the lines of the story, then this is the time to dive into this content. Get ready for a deep journey that can transform your view of the past, the present, and the future. The Book of Enoch introduces us to one of the most impressive prophecies, the Great Flood that would sweep from earth the boundless corruption brought by the fallen angels, also called vigilantes. These heavenly beings, when rebelled and relate to humans, generated the Nephilim, powerful giants that spread chaos and violence. Divine intervention at this point was not just a punishment, but an attempt to restore moral order in the world. The flood, therefore, is more than a historical event. It is a deep symbol of divine justice in action. Often people read about Noah's Ark as a children's story, but the truth is that there is a very serious message about the risk of ignoring spiritual principles. The flood marked a complete restart of humanity, a kind of spiritual cleaning where only those who kept their integrity were spared. It is as if God said, corruption has expiration date. Enoch's book reminds us that cycles of ascension and fall exist for a reason and almost always involve the breakdown of collective morality. Want a practical advice? Study these narratives not like myths, but as alerts. Take Genesis itself, read Enoch's book, and notice the similarities. They complete themselves. And more than that, they challenge us to reflect on how we live today. Are we repeating the same mistakes as that generation? What if a new kind of flood, perhaps not water, but moral and spiritual confusion, is already surrounding us? In the views of Enoch, there is a striking sequence of empires that rise with glory and then collapse in ruins. He accurately describes the emergence of civilizations such as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Greece, and Rome, all powerful, dominant, and at the same time marked by moral and spiritual decay. These ancient kingdoms prospered for a while, but none escaped the cycle of ascension and fall. The pattern repeats itself: power, pride, corruption, and fall. Enoch's prophecy invites us to see that every human empire is finite before divine laws. These historical cycles are not random. There is something deeper guiding behind the scenes, a kind of justice that, even invisible, acts at the right time. When an empire ignores the principles of justice, morality, and compassion, its fall becomes inevitable. Enoch seems to anticipate this, like a sentry, by observing the repetition of the same mistakes. He warns us that the true strength of a nation is not only in armies or wealth, but in his covenant with high spiritual values. Now think about how it connects with our time. We are living in a transitional age where structures are ruining, institutions are being questioned, and many people feel that the system is failing. Are we witnessing the end of another cycle? And if so, what will be the next step in the line of prophecy? Studying the ancient kingdoms in the light of the Book of Enoch can reveal more than historical facts, can give us a spiritual map to the present. Among the most touching prophecies of the Book of Enoch is the promise of a Savior, someone who would bring redemption, justice, and restoration to a world plunged into corruption. This Messiah would not only be a common leader, but someone with divine authority to judge both men and fallen angels. Many scholars see here a clear reference to Jesus Christ, whose mission involved not only the forgiveness of sins, but also confrontation with the spiritual forces of evil. The coming of this Redeemer is the watershed between the old world and the new hope. Enoch describes this Messiah as a chosen from the beginning, the one that would be revealed at the right time to fulfill the divine plan. It is not just a historical character, but a point of connection between heaven and earth, justice and mercy, judgment and salvation. He appears as the one who knows the hearts, who brings light to what is hidden, and who walks ahead of the righteous as a guide and protector. This figure, in essence, is the response to darkness caused by vigilantes and disseminated spiritual corruption throughout the ages. And the most impactful is that this prophecy is not limited to the past. For those who believe, the Messiah continues to act today through faith, the inner transformation, and the promise of a future redemption. Virtually, this means seeking a life aligned with Jesus' teachings, developing a personal relationship with him, and living with eyes turned to something bigger than this world. Have you ever wondered what would change in your life if you really lived as if this prophecy was fulfilling yourself now? Enoch leaves no room for doubt. There will be a day when all actions, intentions, and secrets will be exposed before a divine court. This judgment is not just symbolic, it represents the end of accounts for both humans and the heavenly beings who violated divine laws. Fallen angels, for example, will receive their definitive sentence, paying the price because they have corrupted the creation. Men will be judged according to their morality, choices, and fidelity to the truth. It is the moment when divine justice fully manifests itself. It is interesting how this view connects with the feeling that the world needs balance. How many times have you thought, this can't go unpunished? Well, the day of judgment is the heavenly response to all these injustices. This is not fear, but responsibility. Prophecy reminds us that each attitude tells, that living with integrity has eternal value, and that in the end no one escapes the divine balance. The Book of Enoch offers a strong but necessary portrait of how true justice works, the one who sees what no one sees. And if that sounds distant, remember that the preparation begins in the now. A practical tip? Examine your daily actions, your posture before others, and how you deal with what is right or wrong. This is living with awareness of the future judgment. It is not about living with guilt, but with purpose. After all, knowing that there will be accountability is also a source of hope, the certainty that good will be recognized and evil corrected. But what about you? Are you ready to be weighed on the balance of spiritual justice? The Book of Enoch presents us something fascinating, the idea that there is a hidden knowledge kept by eras, which would be slowly revealed to those who seek the truth with sincerity. But attention, this is not empty curiosity or purposeless esoteric mysteries. This knowledge has a clear goal: to approach God, align us with the spiritual laws of the universe, and prepare us for times of crisis and transformation. It is wisdom that illuminates, corrects, and guides. This kind of revelation is not in the media spotlight or textbooks. It is subtle, deep, and often uncomfortable because it forces us to review our choices, habits, and beliefs. The very structure of the world seems to hide important truths about creation, the fallen angels, the role of man, and the divine plan for humanity. Enoch denounces that this knowledge was corrupted by the vigilantes, who used heavenly wisdom for destructive purposes. But God promised to restore this knowledge in the right hands at the right time. Want to start accessing this knowledge? Invest time in deep spiritual reading. In addition to the Bible and the Book of Enoch itself, explore texts such as Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Gospel of John. But more than reading, it is necessary to reflect, meditate, and apply. The true knowledge is revealed in practice. And perhaps the greatest secret is this: hidden knowledge is not hidden from us, but for us reserved for those who are ready to receive it with humility and responsibility. In Enoch's view, death is not the end point, but a door to something infinitely greater, the final resurrection. This promise is not a vague or symbolic idea, but a spiritual certainty for the righteous, those who remained faithful even in the face of chaos, persecution, and darkness. Enoch describes a moment when the dead will be restored to life, not in a common existence, but in a divine, pure, and painful reality. It is the great reunion between the Creator and His creation. This perspective changes everything. If life does not end with death, then every attitude, every choice, each seed planted today carries an eternal weight. Resurrection is not just a comfort for those who suffer, but a call to responsibility. She reminds us that existence has continuity, purpose, and justice. For those who follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, this hope is central. He has overcome death so that we could do the same. and Enoch was already pointing to this victory many centuries before the cross. Now, if you seek to live with more purpose, here is a simple practice every day. Reflect on what you would do differently if you were sure there is life after death. What would you leave aside? What would you start doing? This reflection is not morbid, it is liberating. Because when you believe in the final resurrection, you understand that everything you do here has eternal value. And perhaps it is precisely this faith that gives you strength to follow, even when everything seems to collapse. After all this, there is a question in the air, and you, where is in this story? The prophecies of the Book of Enoch are not only distant reports, but living alerts, drawing the attention of those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Each of these revelations from the great flood to the final resurrection carries an invitation to transformation. It is not about waiting for the future to happen, but to act now, to awaken to a life with more conscience, faith, and purpose. Have you ignored clear signs around you? Are you letting go of opportunities to reconnect with what really matters? The moment to reflect is now, not out of fear, but out of hope. Because even in the midst of chaos, there is always a light, and this light can be the revelation that changes everything. You may have been guided so far for a reason, so why not take the next step? If this content has played something inside you, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and follow our next videos. There is still much to be revealed, and you won't want to lose anything.